I'm Teal Richards, and I have the honor of being the principal here at Orchard Avenue Elementary. For the last several years, we've been implementing restorative practices here at Orchard Avenue, and we've seen a remarkable impact on our school culture and also on our students and staff members. So we hope that you enjoy hearing some stories about this implementation from the perspective of our Orchard Avenue community members.
Hi, I'm Vicki Woods, and I had previously been the principal here at Orchard Avenue Elementary when we initiated restorative practices in 2019. So at Orchard Avenue, our staff always had these two really consistent beliefs: that behavior was purposeful and that students needed skills in order to successfully resolve conflict. So about 3 years prior to that, we had adopted a resource, Second Steps, that allowed teachers to teach social skills within the classroom. And it was, implemented a bit sporadically. Teachers had developed protocols in their classrooms for students to resolve conflict, and some had their own practices that they had success with previous to that, and then, that resource also helped. What I found from office perspective is that I would have recurring students coming in. We would successfully resolve conflicts. We would use skills that they had learned, or we were coaching them through the office. But later they didn't always get supported to continue those same social skills that they had been learning. So it was probably the kids that needed it the most. So although we had sporadic systems throughout the school, we always had a culture in our building of caring and, adults truly respected kids and understood that social development was equally as important as academic skills. So adopting restorative practices felt like the right thing to do at that time. What I appreciated was we had developed other practices in the school to really develop a culture of care, and restorative practices incorporated things that we had already done, but it was a much more systematic process, as well as allowing us to connect relationships across the school.
One food I would eat for dinner is spaghetti. One food I would eat for dinner would be...
Hi, my name is Carter, and I'm in first grade, and I go to Orchard Avenue Elementary School. And my favorite thing about community circles is that I get to talk and share and learn about others.
Pizza. The only thing the only thing that I would have for dinner is spaghetti.
My name is Jenna Fairfield, and I am a 5th grade teacher here at Orchard Avenue. I have been using restorative practices in my classroom for about 1.5 years now. We went through the training. I think one of the big changes that I've seen in students through this journey, is more ownership from students and more conversation around problems and problem solving together, rather than it coming from an authority to a student. Really engaging in conversations around problems and how to solve. I think the other big thing that's been really impactful for students and in our classroom has been our community circles. Just giving us an opportunity to really get to know one another and build those relationships in that community, and really starting off with a huge emphasis on those community circles. I think thinking back to last year, really it was the first half of the year where we just did those community circles. And then the second half of the year, we were able to do more of those problem-solving restorative circles. And the class was able to really engage with that work because of the foundation that we had set with our community circles. So I think more ownership, definitely seeing that. And then just from a staff perspective, more continuity with the language that we use with students, And I've seen that just impact students because there's consistency across our system, which has been really beautiful. And I think if I were giving a tip to somebody that's new to restorative practices, I think the big thing would just be to go slow and not feel compelled to jump into something too fast, and really take the time to establish the foundation of relationship building and that common language. And then when students are ready and you're sort of at a place in the year to engage in the deeper work of restorative circles and more of that deeper problem solving, then take on that next step, but not to feel rushed in that process at all. I think over time, especially thinking through how that impacts the system over time, then students are more familiar with the process. And even this year, every student expects a circle. And so we start the day that way and we end the day that way. And that's just become part of the routine here at Orchard Avenue. And when new learners come, then they just jump right into that structure and those systems. And so I think really just giving it time and knowing that it does take time, but it's definitely worth the time and the effort for both staff and then also for our students.
So I'm Dan Lundberg, and I'm the PE teacher here at Orchard Avenue, and I've been using restorative practices for nearly 2 years now. And just being part of the PE classroom, there can be lots of different problems that occur, and one of the major changes I've noticed in students over the last 2 years is that students are now very open to having conversations when a problem occurs. And one of the greatest parts of that is that students are just very accountable for their choices. And instead of students wanting to try to maybe get somebody in trouble or have a kind of negative conversation, students are just open to problem solving. And that's led to lots of problems that don't occur multiple times. Students seem to just take ownership that they may have made a mistake and they understand the harm involved, and students are able to move on and continue with class and have great relationships with their classmates.
My name is Willie. I'm a parent of a third grade student here at Orchard Avenue Elementary. And the school here has a culture of kindness. In fact, if you go to the website, you'll see that the vision is to build learners who are empowered to become compassionate world citizens. And it's not just lip service. The staff here live and breathe this vision. My son has had some peer conflict over the years, and staff always takes the time to address it with him, both one-on-one and then combined with his peers. And the kids are really encouraged to talk with one another, problem solve, and come up with a compromise or a solution together. The school always calls me and gives me a heads up about the situation, and then my son will come home and he's eager to tell me about the experience. I believe that's in part due to the fact that the school is teaching him real life skills that enhance his self-esteem and empower him to work through problems. And it's because there's a culture here that's built on change through relationship building versus change through a more punishment-oriented type discipline. And that really aligns with my parenting style. So I'm honored to have my son go to school here.
My name is Jennifer Lossie, and I've been a teacher at Orchard Avenue for 23 years. And a majority of my time at Orchard Avenue was teaching first and second grade. And about 6 years ago, my principal, Vicki Woods, asked me if I would take over the autism program, which I promptly renamed the neurodiversity classroom. And I did. I accepted the position, and it's a unique learning environment. I have currently 8 students, and I have 7 adults. So there's 1 student for every adult. And I quickly realized that running a team of grown-ups was going to be the biggest challenge of my new position. And that just lifted our circles up to an entire different level. So as we started learning about circles and practice circles more, and my team knew what was behind the meaning of the circles, they just grew stronger and stronger. So 2 mornings a week we meet, and I hold circles with grown-ups. So there's 8 or 9 of us at any given time, and we have really tough conversations through the structures of restorative justice circles, and we have been able to get through some really tough things in a really respectful, nurturing, supportive environment. And so much now that my team members, my paraeducators will say, can we all come to work tomorrow a few minutes early, because I need to have a circle. So that has helped us all become more effective educators, because we're communicating. We're not holding resentments. We're happy. We know if we have something to talk about, we have a place, a container to talk about it. Addition to my professional growth as a teacher, and my kids are thriving and my team is thriving.
My name is Tanya Neese, and I'm the assistant principal at Orchard Avenue Elementary School.
My name is Kayla Fox. I am the school counselor at Orchard Avenue Elementary School. The way that we choose to use restorative practices here really is collaborative. We believe very much that we are an integral part of the community, even though we're not always in the classroom or in with kids all day long, the same as a classroom teacher. However, going in and being part of community circles, their morning routine, using the restorative practices, problem-solving steps is really important to us. And so as a counselor, it really becomes this collaborative, integral process for students and staff. That way, when we're in the classroom or they're talking to us, it doesn't feel like it's something separate than their classroom and their everyday norm.
So there are times when students have office referrals and they're sent down to the office. And what's great about that is we really get to work together. So usually if we get a call or a notice that a teacher needs some support, we'll do kind of that warm handoff. So one of us will go down and just walk down with that student. And that first part is really about building relationships, talking with them, making sure that we have this culture of care, even in tricky situations. So we'll be talking with them as we walk down the hallway. When they get to our offices, they'll have a chance to sit and calm down. And then we say when they get in the green zone or this place to plan or start to problem solve, then we transition to this other part in our office. Both of us have round tables where we sit and problem solve. And we might do that with a couple of students. It might just be us and a student. But it really gives us a chance to go deeper and think about what's the root of the problem. And yeah, it does take a little bit longer than slapping a consequence and moving on, but we find that we actually solve problems for the long term, and so we're not dealing with the same recurring problems over and over again. They really have a chance to get at the root of what's going on. Yeah, and so I would say if a new school wants to try this out, especially at the elementary level, I think having just some really consistent structures in place, like the calm corner, the planning area where you do the restorative conversations and the agreements, just having those structures in place so staff and students can anticipate what's happening is really helpful.
And knowing that counseling and administration and teachers, they're not separate entities. We're all on the same team and we all work together. Sometimes it looks like, oh, there's a consequence, and so we get to take responsibility and move forward, and we get to meet with the counselor and talk about the why, and we get to go and practice in our classroom community. And that feels really good to have that integral team, staff-wide. Everybody is on the same page.
My name's Ada, and I go to kindergarten at Orchard Avenue.
My name is Olivia, and I go to kindergarten at Orchard Avenue too, and I'm in Ada's class.
We're going to teach you how to solve small problems. First, we get a teacher and a friend.
And then we use the steps. First, we say the problem, we tell how we feel, we explore solutions, we pick a solution, then we use the solution to solve the problem. And then we go back to playing.
I'm Sean Karstensen Hayes, and my current role here at Orchard Avenue is a learner-centered coach, where I work with teachers and students. I've been teaching for 26 years, and 16 of those years have been at Orchard Avenue. At Orchard Avenue, we believe in cultivating student agency, and we really feel like the restorative justice practices align to student agency. And we believe that students need to have a voice in their learning and also in our school community. One way that we're building the student agency is this idea of having a student leadership team. And our leadership team is made up of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And they actually apply and they're interviewed by the current leadership team members. And this year, the leadership team actually analyzed our student perceptual data, and then they gave feedback to our principal on what they noticed on how we were cultivating a culture of care, and they even gave suggestions on what we could do next. So I know that the culture of care is being embedded in our school culture and even within our leadership team. And one way that I know that is that the leadership team has decided to develop a program called Student Ambassadors. And this program is cultivating a student agency in a way that they are creating a program where they are working with teachers and even our office staff, so that when we get a new family in to at any moment in time during the year, we will have a student from that classroom who will give a tour and greet the family and make sure that they have a buddy for the week. And then the leadership team will check in with that student to make sure that they feel valued and cared for. Another project that's on our leadership team's list is this taking what they've learned through the restorative conversations that they've had with teachers and their peers and creating, they're calling it Recess Ambassadors, but it's like a peer mentor program. And so they're designing that program and what that can look like for our students K through 5th grade. Being here at Orchard Avenue during the first year of implementation and now the 2nd year of implementation, I feel like we have been really thoughtful in our pep talks and Friday reflections. So pep talks and Friday reflections are these videos that we have weekly, and we are trying to make sure that we're embedding the restorative practice trainings that we've had and also our social and emotional learning standards. And it's a time where every member of our staff is listening or watching actually these videos and being able to think about our Orchard Avenue expectations of taking care of each other, taking care of yourself and this place. And you can see how everything is helping to create this culture of care at Orchard Avenue and this connectivity. One story that I'll never forget is in the first year of implementation, there is a student that many of us knew, and I was doing a check-in, and I was doing our daily check-in, and I just picked him up from his classroom, and they had just finished their community circle, and we were walking down the hallway, and he's sort of just hopping along next to me. And then I just noticed how he just sort of turned and looked up at me, and he's like, "What's up with all these community circles and kindness?" And I was like, "Well, tell me more." And he's just like, "I just find it sort of weird. We've never done that before." And then I just asked him, what are your feelings about it? Do you like it? And he's like, "Yeah, I like it." And that just goes to show for a student that I felt like over the years had a harder time connecting and feeling valued for a variety of reasons, was feeling more connected to our community because of the work that we're doing with restorative justice practices and creating a culture of care.
I'm Teal Richards, and I'm the principal at Orchard Avenue Elementary School. And I've been in education for just about 15 years, and restorative practices training is one of the most powerful learning experiences that I've ever had. I've also been really amazed at how we've seen some significant shifts in our culture here at Orchard Avenue after our implementation of restorative practices. So what I notice is that it's really just becoming the way that we do business here. It's becoming a habit for us. I was walking with a learner down to the office the other day to do some problem solving, and he said to me, yeah, I know, you're gonna ask me how to solve the problem and what I need to do to make it right. So that shows me that it's just becoming a part of the way we do our day-to-day here. The other thing that we're seeing is some really encouraging shifts in our data. So we're noticing that our suspension is decreasing significantly, both in school and out of school suspension. And we're also really seeing a huge decrease in things like loss of recess time being used as a leverage when we have discipline issues. We're seeing an overall decrease in office discipline referral data, and then a huge increase in using restorative conversations to respond when we do have incidents of wrongdoing or office discipline referrals. So that's really encouraging. When I think about implementation, there were a few things we did that I think were really powerful. So the first was we committed to having all of our staff members trained in Tier 1 and Tier 2 at the beginning of the first school year that we were going to implement restorative practices. So that included paraprofessionals and other support staff. We also made sure that when we had new staff come aboard, we had them trained by the RJE team. So we wanted to keep our momentum around that original learning and make sure that new staff had the opportunity to be trained by the same RJE team that we all worked with initially. We've also made a really strong investment in creating a Tier 3 team. So that's myself, our assistant principal, our counselor, and our learner-centered environment coach. And we work closely together around those Tier 3 incidents and problem solving. And then we also really decided to go slow to go fast. So our first year, we committed to doing community circles consistently and daily in every part of our school day. So classrooms, and then also specials like music education and physical education. And really just investing the time in those community circles and then slowly moving into restorative conversations and conferences seemed like a really important part of our success with implementation. One of the main challenges with implementation for us has been this idea of time. So in order to really do the restorative process in the way that shifts behavior, it takes a significant investment of time. So a couple ways that we've kind of addressed that are to work really collaboratively as an office team. So my assistant principal and counselor and learner-centered environment coach and I support each other to give time and space if we need to have restorative conversations, because sometimes it does take a significant part of the school day to do the depth of problem solving that's needed. The other structure that we're really working on improving is giving our classroom teachers a way to have the time and the space that they need to do problem-solving conversations with learners in their class. So that looks like providing coverage for their classroom so that they can build those relationships and do problem-solving with their learners when it's appropriate. So some important next steps for Orchard Avenue are going to be around this idea of strengthening our parent education and building an understanding with our parents about restorative practices and making sure that we're really being intentional about collaborating with parents when it comes to problem solving or addressing wrongdoing. That's a big focus for ours for next year. We also want to get better at how we're collecting data to monitor our implementation. So one of the things we're really thinking about is this idea of doing focus groups with staff members and parents and our learners to get some feedback around how they feel about restorative practices and the impact that it's having so that we can have some next steps for improvement and strengthening around our implementation. And the other really exciting thing that we're doing is working with the RJE team to rewrite our code of conduct through a restorative lens. So a group of teachers is re-examining some of our core beliefs and our code of conduct language to really make sure that it embodies our belief around restorative practices and relationships. And then we'll also be engaging learners and parents and other staff members to help with the writing process of that code of conduct.